Greetings, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are, however you are listening to this video here. What's up everybody, it's Leviathan, long time no see, and as you can see from what's in front of you, we are going to be discussing the patch notes for the PTR of patch 2.4.2, coinciding with the beginning of Season 7, soon to be coming, probably looking around a late July, early August release for this patch. Right now, we've gotten one update to the PTR since it was launched a couple of weeks ago, and so now that we're kind of settling into it, I wanted to go ahead and look at some of the patch notes, get right into it here with you guys. So you can check out what's on the screen here. I'm just going to do a very casual overview. We'll hit on each change, maybe some undocumented changes if I remember them as well, and then we'll talk about kind of the consequences, repercussions, and maybe some theory crafting about all the different things as we get to them. So some general changes here to start. New difficulty levels added, Torment 11, 12, and 13, and also some rewards for gold being adjusted. So now Greater Rift 26 and up has been rescaled to a flat 3% increase per tier. Before there was kind of like an exponential increase, you could say, for gold. So as you went up into higher GRs, you got crazier and crazier amounts of gold, but at the same time, it also cost crazier and crazier amounts to empower gold. And another change that you can see here, the cost to empower a Greater Rift has been reduced to match the new gold reward rate. And that basically means that it's going to cost way less to empower your Greater Rifts now. Like, I think when I was on the PTR, to empower Greater Rift 80 was something like 12 million gold previously, or even right now on live, probably costs about like $1 billion plus, so it's a huge change. And it's going to make it so that the gold sink won't feel as taxing, I don't think. And what this could potentially mean is that we might end up with more gold than we actually need or want in the course of a season. And then for people playing in non-seasonal especially, they're just going to have a truck ton of gold if they're not burning through it already. So I guess if you're playing non-seasonal, save your gold and then wait for the new GRs to empower. This is also an update here as well for Torment 7 through 13. There have been changes to match the Greater Rift reward scaling. So what that means is that a Torment 13 Rift, regular Rift, will actually give you the same gold reward as a Greater Rift 60. So now you won't feel as, I guess, troubled or, kind of hurt by doing a regular Rift in terms of gaining gold, because you'll actually be gaining enough gold. The ratio is that about every 3 Greater Rifts that you run should be able to empower a Greater Rift of that same level. So if you run 3 GR60s, the 4th one you should be able to empower with the gold that you've earned through the last 3, and that ratio is staying the same. So what this basically means is that your gold management should be a lot easier. Doing regular rifts should be more rewarding as well, and so it'll be interesting to see how much the gold sink is affected by this. Next, we'll burn through some class changes for skills. Barbs didn't see too much change except for Threatening Shout. The Falter rune, the one that allowed us to do more damage to enemies when they were affected by this ability, can no longer stack with casts from other sources. So if there was another barb that was also casting Threatening Shout Falter, that was going to stack on top, and now that is no longer the case. Demon Hunter got a huge rework for Spike Trap, so it's been completely redesigned. The traps no longer have an arming time, they only detonate once. Here's a change that was recent with this new PTR update. There are 2 charges each with a 10-second recharge time in terms of the actual skill, so kind of like your sentries that you're familiar with, charges. All active traps are now detonated by the next hatred spender that you cast, so this is actually giving it an active component. Now when you throw out your trap, you can actually activate it by using your spender versus waiting for an enemy to kind of wander over to it. So it's a little bit easier to figure out exactly and predict kind of how much damage you'll be able to get out of them, since you can activate when they go off. Damage has been increased quite a bit. Hatred cost reduced from 30 to 20. The skill rune Echoing Blast has had its damage increase, and it's also been redesigned so that enemies are slowed by 70% when the trap is detonated. The Lightning Rod skill rune got its damage increased. Decreased the radius that lightning can arc to other traps from 75 to 25 yards, so they kind of reined that in, but it'll still be doing a lot more damage than it previously did. Long Fuse is removed altogether and replaced with Impaling Spines. While the trap is active, enemies within range are instantly immobilized for 3 seconds. Increase in damage as well. So you can kind of see the interplay here is basically throw out the trap. The trap's going to slow enemies or make it so that it's a lot harder for them to move away from the traps. You throw out your Hatred Spender, boom, all the traps go off, and so now you're getting some ancillary AoE type of damage. Some more skill rune changes. Scatter now places 2 traps side by side and consumes 1 charge of spike traps, so you get a little 2 for 1. And then Sticky Trap has been removed completely, replaced with Custom Trigger, and now your Hatred generators can detonate the spike traps, and the damage is also increased. So that one's kind of interesting. If you just want your spike traps to be the source of damage, then I guess you would go without a spender and just have your generators trigger your traps. One of the things I've been discussing with friends like Nineball and crew is where does this fit, right? Like, how is the meta going to shake out? Is this supposed to disrupt the DH meta altogether? We'll be seeing spike trap builds rule the DHs come next season, and I really don't feel like that's the case. It's tough to consider where exactly it's supposed to fit. Right now we're thinking maybe Shadow set, it could kind of become, you know, the AoE damage that that set lacks, and it would kind of interplay nicely with the impales that you'd be throwing out, but it doesn't seem like it's really doing that much yet. Again, it's still a really young PTR, and we should also preface this whole thing by saying that anything here is subject to change, so just because you see it with a certain number, or just in case you see it at all, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make it to the live version when this patch comes out. So, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. Witch Doctor got some skill changes. Piranhas and Mass Confusion, Paranoia skill rune in particular, both got the same, can no longer stack with cast from other sources. I was talking to Nineball about this, and he actually brought it to my attention that this is probably something to do with the Grin Reaper, since the Grin Reaper gives you mimics that cast your spells as well too, so you could potentially be double tipping with some of these. So maybe that's a change that they're going for here. And then Spirit Barrage got a lot of love. The Phantasm rune got changed so that damage is increased from 675% over 5 seconds to 750%. And then later on you'll see an item that gives you that rune and some extra stuff to boost up the damage. Wizard passive skills is an interesting one. So Power Hungry has been completely redesigned and now allows you to deal 30% additional damage to enemies that are more than 30 yards away. Another thing that they're trying to really get going with wizards in this patch, especially since a lot of their stuff is being fixed or removed or whatever way you want to look at it, they're trying to push the ranged wizard capability. So there's a wand in there that they gave a power to, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. They added this passive, so they're definitely trying to make ranged wizards a thing. We'll see if that ends up taking off over the course of this PTR. There are some bug fixes. Fixed an issue that prevented Ray of Frost Black Ice from creating an ice patch when the player didn't land the killing blow. Fixed an issue prevented the maximum of 8 energy twisters from applying. So funny enough, when they thought they had capped the energy twisters from the, you know, Twisted Sword, the whole meta that we've been under for the last 2 seasons in a row, they thought they had put a cap on it, but I guess there really wasn't a cap, so that's why that was becoming the most powerful way to do your high-level GRs. So hopefully with this change, maybe we'll see a shift in the 4-player meta finally, and there will be a different DPS coming to take the top. Or maybe 2 DPS, but that's like a pipe dream. We'll see. They'll be interested to see what happens when the wizards aren't the #1 choice. And then we fixed an issue that was causing stacks of Archon from a previous cast due to the Swami to stack multiplicatively instead of additively with a subsequent overlapping cast of Archon. So this actually is a pretty big change because you wanted to really get those overlapping stacks because your damage and everything would just go through the roof. With this becoming additive, that's severely going to limit the damage output, and Veers is kind of going to suffer very heavily from this, but this does also fix some of the like Firebirds interactions and things where you're just getting crazy damage output. So we'll see what happens to Wizards. They're going to be in a very interesting place by the time Season 7 rolls around. There's a brand new potion that was introduced. It has the power of teleporting you to another location when used below 40% health. They added a graphical and sound effect to the teleport, and they also added a camera smoothing effect. I haven't seen this potion yet in my travels in the PTR, but I'll be curious to try it. It seems very risky. I don't know, it's like a Definitely hardcore reverse thing. I don't know if I would trust this with my life, but kind of cool. Invigorating Gemstone, completely redesigned. The normal power now is each hit done increases healing received by 1% for 5 seconds, and this 1% is the part that scales when you level it up. And that stacks up to 10 times. And then the secondary unlock is you are now immune to crowd control effects at rank 25. Don't know that this will propel this into any sort of use. I could see it maybe becoming something that supports might want if they can't fit their crowd control immune skill into their build, or like witch doctors, you know, suffering from not having one any at all anyway. This could be useful for that, but I don't really see it being slotted into like the top GR clearing builds or anything like that. We'll see though. So, Crusader, you know, my bread and butter, tried and true, looking for some good changes here, and I don't think that we have them just yet. Armor of a Con 6-piece set bonus got a boost for their damage going from 450 to 600%. And they also finally added this damage reduction, 15% damage reduction while Agrat's champion is active. This is a very modicum amount, this is very small. I would like to see this number more like, get rid of that 1, add a 0 here, like a 50%, that would be huge. We'll see if it goes through some iteration. The 600% is definitely nice. I feel like they have to be careful with this because there is that interaction with a Con 6-piece and 2-piece invokers, so maybe that's why they're reluctant to like really push it through the roof or to make sweeping changes to cons in general. Right now it's tough because anything that's not a Thorns build for Crusaders is really suffering. Thorns is just that good, and so it either needs to have a case. I might make another video on this topic in specific, but we either need to have a case where Thorns is brought down in power so that other non-Thorns setups for Crusaders can compete, or the other setups need huge boosts. So right now it's just not looking great if you don't want to play Thorns, and people have been playing Thorns, Lone Bombardment, Invokers to some degree, but not really, mostly just Bombardment for the last 2 seasons, and it looks like if nothing changes, it's going to be another 3rd season of Legacy of Nightmares Bombardment. They did add some interesting items for boosting up Fist of the Heavens. Court of the Righteous, new legendary belt. Fist of the Heavens costs 40% less wrath and deals 150% more damage. This is nice because it is a costly spell, so when you have this combined with like the Akon set, it really costs next to nothing. This is decent adding of damage, but you know, not a ton. And then the Dark Light was redesigned, so now gives Fist of Heavens a chance to be cast a 2nd time at the targeted location. So they're like giving some love to it, but this isn't enough, right? Like there's no shield that synergizes with Fist of the Heavens, there's no bracers, so you have all these empty slots if you're trying to like fit it into a cons. If you even want to do like a Legacy of Nightmare Fist of the Heavens build, like you're really missing a lot of pieces. So I would like to see, this is like a step in the right direction, but I'd like to just see more. We need more for Crusaders. And they finally made this change here for Thorns of the Invoker 6-piece set bonus. The 800% Thorns damage dealt to the first enemy hit can now benefit from +% physical damage. This was something that people were regarding as a bug pretty much since the introduction of the Invoker set. It was noted a few times, so finally this will be doing a lot more damage, so this could bring Invokers back into the mix. Demon Hunters, again, continuing with the Spike Trap stuff. The Demon's Demise got a redesign, and now the blast from Spike Trap will damage all enemies again after 1 second. So that's kind of cool. Essentially doubles your damage, allows you to get a 2nd hit off of all those Spike Traps that you've thrown out. I don't really know where this is going to fall in, like how you slot this in, especially if it is going to be like in the shadows. Well, you need a melee weapon, so this would be your cube weapon, and then that kind of limits you from doing some other things, like having the permanent uptime with Vengeance without a Dawn in the cube and things like that. So we'll see. Monk, Raiment of 1,000 Storms. 6-piece set bonus got a huge buff. Damage bonus granted to Spirit Generators after casting Dashing Strike was increased from 300% to 1,250%, so that's a pretty big boost. I'm not exactly a huge fan of this playstyle, but if there are probably people out there who do like it, so that's a good boost. Witch Doctor Homunculus, sacrifice damage bonus increase, 25-30% to 50 to 60, so that's a nice just doubling. The Ring of Emptiness has got a big boost. Haunt and Locust Swarm damage bonus increased from 75 to 100% to 250. to 300%, so that's really, really big. We'll see if that helps increase. That's a bonus to the Jade Harvester set, so we'll see if that ends up seeing some more use. Wizard, and now here are the big redesigns. Firebird's Finery. The 4-set bonus has been redesigned. Dealing fire damage with one of your skills causes the enemy to take 1000% weapon damage as fire for 3 seconds. This effect can be repeated a second and third time by different skills, and if an enemy is burning due to 3 different skills simultaneously, the enemy will ignite, dealing 3000% weapon damage per second until they die. So it's kind of making it so that you actually have to have 3 different fire skills on your character in order to now get this 4-piece bonus to work for you. I think some people were saying that you can get it to work like with fire weapon damage, you know, fire as your weapons mode of damage, some other sources like firewalkers or things like that, so maybe there are ways around having it take up 3 skills on your bar, but definitely seems a little prohibitive. And then the 6-piece set bonus is also redesigned. Your damage is increased by 120% and damage taken reduced by 3% for each enemy that is ignited. This effect can stack up to 20 times, so you can get a 60% damage reduction here, which I know one of the big things people are saying about Firebirds is that there's no damage reduction, so it feels really squishy. It's kind of nice. You always receive the maximum bonus whenever a nearby elite monster is ignited, so as long as you're fighting elites and you ignite them, you actually always have this bonus damage increase and bonus damage reduction. Definitely a big boost downward, a depowering, if you will, to the Firebirds and Wizards, but we'll, again, see how it plays out. Several existing class-specific legendary items have been updated. So there are, of course, all these items rolling around out there that don't have powers still, so they're still going and adding powers to stuff. Originally in the PTR, this Sledge of Athskeling had a new power where the Seismic Slam was increasing the damage of your next 3 earthquakes within 15 seconds by 100%. They moved that power to the Girdle of Giants, and then they also redesigned it. So Seismic Slam now increases earthquake damage by 80 to 100% for 15 seconds. And then existing earthquakes that were already out will have their damage increased when Seismic Slam is used with Girdle of Giants, so you can kind of update your earthquakes whenever you throw out a new Seismic Slam. Demon Hunter Fletcher's Pride. Oh, interesting. So they originally had this power on the Fletcher's Pride quiver, and then they moved it to this Trag-Ul Coils Racer. Very interesting. I wonder why they made that change. Okay, so this is how it originally appeared in the first patch of the PTR, and then this is the change earlier this week. Legendary power, Spike Traps gain the effect of the Impaling Spines rune and are deployed twice as fast. It's going to help you get your Spike Traps super fast out there and, you know, boost up that Spike Trap meta. Monk's Scarbringer. This was doing some work on the PTR. Lashing Tail Kick was dealing a truck ton of damage, and it got brought down to reality a little bit, perhaps. Lashing Tail Kick was dealing an additional 1000% damage to the first 5 enemies hit, and then in this latest iteration of the PTR, it's now 300% to the first 5 to 7 enemies hit. Witch Doctors is that Gazing Demise that I was talking about earlier. So Spirit Barrage gains the Phantasm rune, and then for each Phantasm, with a max of 3, the damage of Spirit Barrage is increased by 40 to 50%. So it's kind of nice potential. I was talking to Nineball about this one as well. Potential for some good single target damage here, perhaps. Should make for an interesting use of Spirit Barrage. And then here's that Starfire wand that I was talking about previously. Legendary power added, so that lightning damage done is increased by 15% for every 10 yards that you are from the target. Again, trying to really make that ranged wizard meta setup work. See what happens. Some bug fixes. Fixed an issue that prevented the buff from the Orb of the Infinite from being applied if the damage killed the enemy. Fixed an issue that caused Firebird's Finery 2-set bonus to proc early if there was another damage shield on the player. Fixed an issue that caused Treasure Goblins spawned by the Legacy Puzzle Ring to pick up Transmog items. That's pretty trolly. Campaign mode. I'm not sure why this became a thing. The Skeleton King will now drop the Orc's Crown beginning at level 5. I can understand if you're going to put it into the cube, but you don't get sockets on things until like what, like level 19, level 20? So if this drops at level 5, isn't that just going to be like really disappointing? Also, how do you get to the Skeleton King at level 5, right? Like,
by the time you get to Skeleton King, you can't help but level up past level 5. So I don't really know what's going on with this. It's interesting though. Adventure mode changes. These are really awesome. This is going to be great for farming next season. Infernal machine drop rates have been adjusted. There's now a 50% chance for a machine to drop on Torment 1, increasing to 100%. A guaranteed drop on Torment 4. And then from beyond Torment 4, 5 to 13, you have an increased chance for a second machine to drop. I ran a few key wardens, machine wardens on the PTR, and when I did one run, 3 out of the 4 wardens dropped 2 machines, so it's really boosted up on Torment 13. It's really nice. We'll be able to do many more Ubers in the next season, and that should make for getting, hopefully, better and easier time of getting those Hellfire Amulets. Nephilim Rifts got some changes here. So Greater Rift keys are now guaranteed from any Nephilim Rift, doesn't matter what the difficulty is. However, increasing the difficulty will now increase your chance of getting a second or a third key. On Torment 13, I was running a couple of rifts on PTR. It seemed a little rarer to get 3 keys, but it is possible. So it's really cool. This will help us, again, kind of like sustain that. You need to farm, you know, a ton of gems to get your augments and things like that, your Call to Sun's Despairs. So having this opportunity for a third key and not having to spend as much time in regular rifts should be really good. Greater Rifts, they got rid of the no boss kills, which some of the like higher level groups were doing, basically like run through the rift, kill all the enemies, spawn the boss, leave the game. Some of the experience that's earned in a Greater Rift now has been shifted from killing monsters to the reward for closing the rift. The overall amount of experience earned should be roughly the same. So basically they're just making it so that if you want to get all the experience from the rift, you need to kill the boss and then close that rift. Otherwise you're losing out on quite a bit. And then lastly, some quality of life changes. Pylons and Nephilim Rifts now have unique minimap icons, which is kind of cool. You can see, you know, there's like a little lightning bolt when you get a conduit pylon to spawn, so you know what you're getting before like necessarily hovering over it or clicking on it. A hotkey has been added to the game to hide the UI. This is really nice for taking screenshots. It gets rid of everything, like your skills, your portrait frame, the little mini map, everything. So it's just a clear, crisp screen. When the blacksmith is trained to max level, his recipe list will now start collapsed. So that's cool, just for organizational purposes. And now the Menadris Goblin has a unique minimap icon, which is really nice. That way you won't hit one and then accidentally kill it, and then everyone else in your party is like, hey, thanks for that. Good job, buddy. So that's pretty much it. You can see it's a small patch. It's not that much going on, so we're kind of curious as to, does this mean the development really is slowing down for D3? Is there a bigger patch that's coming in the future and they're working on 2.4? I think we did hear mentions of 2.5 in the past, but obviously all things are subject to change, even when it's not PTR, so who knows, you know, the plans could have changed and maybe we'll see like 2.4.3, 0.4, just smaller changes and finagling with numbers. An undocumented change that I can't remember offhand right now is the speed of upgrading your legendary gems when you're at Urshi is actually increased. Before, remember, I think it was Season 5, it was crazy fast. You could like spam it and be done really quickly. They reverted back to the normal speed in Season 6, and now it's a little bit faster on the PTR, but not nearly as fast as it was in Season 5. So I guess they kind of fixed whatever bug they had with it when you weren't necessarily seeing the updated results. But anyways, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the patch 2.4.2. As we're seeing it on PTR right now, there will certainly be many more changes and tinkering with these numbers. So if anything significant happens, maybe I'll do another review video. But basically, this is me encouraging you to hop in there, test things out, do some bug reporting, do some feedback reporting, and maybe if you have a cause that's really near and dear to your heart, you can affect some change and get some things done before this all goes to the live server. For now, I'm gonna peace out. I'm gonna actually get in the game and play myself, test some things, and I'll be seeing you guys pretty soon. Take care.